Good morning. My name is Linda Karen-Nicholas, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory on which our church building sits as the ancestral homeland of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. We have a few announcements. As in past years, the UUCHV will be collecting holiday gifts for clients of Hope Store and Jan Peak House. The deadline for your contributions is December 4th. Please contact Terry Lucan for details. Thank you in advance for your generosity. Please join us this Thursday at 7 o'clock for our Zoom town hall meeting. Check your email this week for a sneak preview of the questions we will be discussing in the breakout rooms pertaining to the 4 goals the board has set for this year. The link for the Zoom meeting will be in the email. The fall cleanup was wisely rescheduled for next Saturday from 9:30 to 1 to allow Mother Nature to drop more of our leaves. We will be decorating the sanctuary again this year with wreaths. Bring in your wreath to add to the festive collection. The Arts Committee will be hanging the wreaths after the service on December 5th. If you are curious about, and I don't have mine, and do you have yours? The stars that are attached to many of our name tags, just look for someone who has 1 or 2 or 3. We have stars for everyone. Please wear your name tags or bring them in from now on. The first phase of our congregational quilt starts today after our service. There will be 3 different times that you can make patches for our quilt. Check your e-news for the future dates, but right after our service, we will be doing them today. For the most up-to-date information, please refer to our weekly e-newsletter and check our website frequently. The website is also the place where you can find contact information for our staff, Board of Trustees, and other congressional leaders. And please join us for conversation after the service. If you are present in the sanctuary and the weather permits, you can join us in the parking lot. Today, I believe we'll be outside. Is that correct? Yes? Yeah, because of the quilting. Other times we may be able to meet in Fellowship Hall or back here in the sanctuary. If you are watching the live stream, the link for a Zoom coffee hour can be found in the Saturday reminder in your email. If you are just recently joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us with your name and we will make sure you're added to our e-news list. We can also answer any questions you might have. Email us at uucroton@gmail.com or fill out one of the yellow cards that's being held up right there. Should be somewhere in front of you. in the back of the pews and drop it in the collection plate. Please silence your cell phones at this time, and once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
Thanks be to life itself for this, another hour we have together in our church. Let our gathering this morning remind us that life is finite and that since we may not get to do all the things we would like to do, perhaps there is time enough to do the things we should. In this spirit we gather, in this spirit we worship.
Good morning. We come as we are, traveling our own journey, yet yearning to be connected, reminded of our own connection to the divine and to this human family. Let us light this chalice, seeking joy, truth, healing, faith, comfort, and transcendence. Now please join me in saying our unison affirmation. The words are in your order of service. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. Let us bear witness now to the joys and sorrows experienced in our community. If you have a personally significant joy or sorrow that you are willing to share, please come up to the microphone on my left, your right, and speak it loudly and clearly so that even with your mask on, we can all hear you. The microphone will allow our friends watching virtually to hear what you are saying. You do have to get close to the mic. I will light a candle for each. When you are done speaking, please use the center aisle to return to your seat. And if you would prefer to only have a candle lit without speaking, just stand and I will light a candle for you.
I think this is a joy. The board at their meeting last Wednesday approved congregational singing with masks on. So next Sunday, we will be singing hymns for the first time in the sanctuary in quite a long time. I suppose, depending on how well you sing, it might be a sorrow. But I think it's a joy. Thank you to our Board of Trustees.
I have a joy. We recently, at the library where I work, had 2 people resign. We have hired one of the replacements, and we are very close to getting the second one hired, and I am so relieved.
We also acknowledge, we also acknowledge all the unspoken joys and sorrows held within the sanctuary of our hearts, and all those people who have yet to find a spiritual home where they can share their joys and sorrows.
Just want to make note of some corrections to your order of service, which were entirely my error. The meditation and the reading are switched. So you will be hearing Barbara Merritt now and Thich Nhat Hanh later. And I got the Title wrong, too. It's entitled Appointments to Keep by Barbara Merritt. I invite you now to join in the spirit of meditation. You may want to do so by sitting up straighter in your pew or at home, putting your feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes if you wish, or leave them just slightly open. And slowly take in a nice deep breath, releasing all of the stress of the week. I am not one for reading oracles, interpreting dreams, or divining signs. My world usually unfolds for me in a rather mundane and practical manner. However, you can get my attention by hitting me between the eyes with a 2x4. For instance, because of a heavy snowfall in New England and high winds, the church roof leaked. Considering our roof covers tens of thousands of square feet, it was an amazingly small leak. One steady stream of about a gallon of water focused and limited itself to 2 square feet of damage. Now, where do you suppose in our vast building that this water landed? Certainly not in a hallway or bathroom where it could have had little effect. Certainly not in one of our large empty halls where a bucket or mop could have easily taken care of the damage. No, it leaked right square in the middle of the minister's desk. I have a large desk, and on it are hundreds of dollars worth of books, piles of sermons, unopened mail, and church record. None of this was touched. Other than the blotter, which lost its life in a valiant attempt to sop up the unexpected torrent, only one item was destroyed: my appointment calendar. This calendar was chock full of appointments, conferences, sermon titles, meetings, deadlines, and commitments into the next year. There is no tool I use more frequently or rely on more heavily than this calendar. It represents, for me, productive work, a busy schedule, a certain order, and a comforting map of challenges and obligations that lie ahead. Now it lies curled up on my desk, matted, wrinkled, and warped. It is still somewhat legible, but so misshapen that all the information will have to be transferred to a new book. The specificity of this leak causes me to take notice. I am shaken at the thought that the creator of roof leaks does not take my busy life as seriously as I do. I wonder whether God is as impressed with my hectic schedule, long hours, and many commitments as I am. My immediate conclusion is apparently not. What fills our days and nights can so easily become endless distraction. We become perpetual motion machines that never reflect on the ultimate purpose of all this activity. Having my calendar destroyed has given me pause. Perhaps it is not how much we do that matters. The spirit in which that work is done is more important. If we forget whom we serve, if we neglect to tend to the resources that give us the energy to complete our tasks, then more than appointment books get harmed. Our very lives are diminished. As our calendars fill up and our schedules are established, may we return to the prayers and the grace that hold these structures in place. Let us join together in a moment of silent meditation.
These words are from Thich Nhat Hanh. One autumn day, I was in a park, absorbed in the contemplation of a very small but beautiful leaf in the shape of a heart. Its color was almost red, and it was barely hanging on the branch, nearly ready to fall down. I spent a long time with it, and I asked the leaf a lot of questions. I found out that the leaf had been a mother to the tree. Now, usually we think that the tree is the mother and the leaves are just the children, but as I looked at the leaf, I saw that the leaf is also a mother to the tree. The sap that the roots take up is only water and minerals, not good enough to nourish the tree. So the tree distributes that sap to the leaves. And the leaves take the responsibility of transforming that rough sap into elaborated sap and, with the help of the sun and gas, send it back in order to nourish the tree. Therefore, the leaves are also the mother to the tree. And since the leaf is linked to the tree by a stem, the communication between them is easy to see. We do not have a stem linking us to our mother anymore, but when we were in her womb, we had a very long stem, an umbilical cord. The oxygen and the nourishment we needed came to us through that stem. Unfortunately, on the day that we call our birthday, it was cut off, and we received the illusion that we are independent. That is a mistake. We continue to rely on our mother for a very long time, and we have several other mothers as well. The earth is our mother. We have a great many stems linking us to our Mother Earth. There is a stem linking us with the cloud. If there is no cloud, there is no water for us to drink. We are made of at least 70% water, and the stem between the cloud and us is really there. This is also the case with the river, the forest, the logger, and the farmer. There are hundreds of thousands of stems linking us to everything in the cosmos, and therefore we can be. Do you see the link between you and me? If you are not there, I am not here. That is certain. If you do not see it yet, look more deeply, and I'm sure you will see it. As I said, this is not philosophy. You really have to see. I asked the leaf whether it was scared because it was autumn and the other leaves were falling, and the leaf told me no. During the whole spring and summer, I was very alive. I worked hard and helped nourish the tree, and much of me is in the tree. Please do not say that I am just this form, because the form of a leaf is only a tiny part of me. I am the whole tree. I know that I am already inside the tree, and when I go back to the soil, I will continue to nourish the tree. That's why I do not worry. As I leave this branch and float to the ground, I will wave to the tree and tell her, I will see you again very soon.
When I was first coming up in ministry, the Reverend Barbara Merritt was one of those bright lights that many of us new ministers looked up to. So when her meditation manual, Amethyst Beach, came out, I knew I would have to consume its contents immediately. Perhaps, for obvious reasons, the story of the leak lands spot on about the minister's day planner is probably my favorite. It reminded me of when, oddly enough, something like that happened to me once. The roof did not drop anything on my desk. Instead, I suffered the modern-day equivalent of Barbara's day planner. My phone died. Oh, there were signs that it was coming, of course. It was a battery issue, as often these things are. And I woke up one day with another of a string of conference calls scheduled, and it just wouldn't turn on. That is a panicky feeling at first, because there's some items on there that I wished I'd had and was hoping that I had backed up. But then the call started and I was launched into my work. It wouldn't be until later that week that I finally realized, oh my gosh, I haven't looked at my phone in 4 days, which is strange in a way. I distinctly remember going through seminary, going through life without a cell phone or social media. For many years, even after I had a cell phone, that was all it was a phone I carried around. Actually, I was one of the last holdouts of the Palm Pilot, if you remember those. My point being that I only vaguely remember a moment in my life that I could actually function as a partner, a father, a minister, indeed a human being without technological aid. Yet 4 days without a phone felt like a great accomplishment of self-denial, as if I'd planned to do it all along for Lent or something like that. And you know what? It felt great. I loved not having a phone. It felt so good that I didn't replace it right away, actually, but would see what it would be like to go a whole week without a phone. I'll admit that didn't mean that I stayed off social media entirely. I accessed Facebook and Twitter on my computer, but I wasn't on nearly as much, and frankly, it was freeing. It felt like a burden had been lifted, not just being online, but accessible to the entire world 24 hours a day. I had seen friends and colleagues take social media Sabbaths from time to time, even a couple of folks staying off social media for Lent when that would roll around. And now I see some of the wisdom in this practice, sort of the postmodern equivalent to fasting. I found that I was not nearly as distracted. I was more focused on other people in the room with me. Nothing was buzzing in my pocket or ringing in my ear for my attention. I found that I read more and with better focus. That is until my office administrator at the time had something come up and couldn't get into work. She tried texting, which was kind of our normal modus operandi in the San Antonio church when situations like that would occur. But I remembered my phone was dead. It wasn't until late in the week that I was able to finally get a hold of a member who shared details of a medical procedure that was coming up. My first instinct to him was to say, oh, no worries, just give me a call. Here's my cell phone number. And that was when I realized that, like it or not, technology has changed the way we interrelate to each other. I think perhaps in our emphasis on relations between persons and interdependence that our principles speak so eloquently, that makes us feel that connection is integral to our faith. I hope you feel that way about Unitarian Universalism, because it is a key lesson to our tradition that it has to teach the world. Connection is even more needed these days when division and separation seem to be the very air we breathe. We have known the sting of racism and white supremacy in our own house and have begun to wrestle with that difficult legacy. Yet at the same time, it seems that American culture, particularly American political discourse, has doubled down on separation and isolation with things like critical race theory and so forth in the critiques of it. In its extreme forms, we've seen terrible tragedies occur in the hands of gunmen in schools, in churches, in concerts. And instead of coming together as a nation to mourn the dead and address the root problem of gun access, we turn everything into a political debate. Truth and compassion are not debatable subjects. Making them so reveals just how deep the rot is. I fear that I may sound like one of those preachers turned doomsday prophets who bemoans the state of this sinful world while looking forward to a radical transformation that will take place. I never thought that I would be in that position, to be honest with you, but radical transformation of a culture that deprives us of love and human connection is exactly what's sorely needed. We now know that Russia injected itself into our political system. There were bots and trolls that sought to divide us in the 2016 election. They would find the most extreme discourse on the right and the left and draw people to those extremes. When an electorate is scared and angry, they become divided and therefore easier to control. Now, related to this news, someone released a study of how we take in information. They found that we relate to information very differently if it is spoken to us versus when it's read. People gathered in a room, and the researcher spoke aloud news articles to this group. And usually these were articles that differed from the political opinions of the people in that room. And then they were asked to read silently to themselves the very same articles. The researchers measured their reactions. Far and away, people had a far more positive reaction to the same information when it was spoken to them, which I suppose is an argument for preaching sermons rather than me just emailing this to you in the middle of the week. In other words, people feel more connected to each other when they're able to be in a room with another human being and relate to them in real time. Reading their ideas on social media or on a website invites negativity, or at least a negative bias towards that information. This is one reason why it's so easy to get into, I guess you call them arguments over, first it was email, now it seems to be social media, Facebook, comment section type stuff. Almost always when this has happened in congregations, I've noticed that the answer is to have people sit in a room together, hear each other, and react in real time. Being in each other's presence is a powerful experience, one that we once took for granted but now know its importance and its preciousness as we slowly emerge from the pandemic. There are many religious traditions that tell us that we're all connected to each other and to the earth. Buddhism talks about the interdependent co-arising, the idea that any one thing in the universe has multiple causes and is itself a cause for something else. Taoism talks about how the world is constantly flowing, a process where seemingly opposite polarities give way to each other. Judaism, you may recall from the movie Schindler's List, says in the Talmud that to save a single person is the same as saving the entire world. Even certain branches of Christianity talk about the logos of the New Testament, not merely in that literal sense of the word made flesh in the form of Jesus, but in Greek, logos also means order, as in the cosmic order of God's creation. We are not merely phenomenons, self-created and sprung from the forehead of Zeus. We are the stuff of stars that burned out and exploded millions, if not billions of years ago, and transformed themselves into elements that make up our mind and body. We are the conglomeration of eons of interconnected cosmic processes. Human beings are the product of two people connected in love in this world. I am that art thou. We are blessings, each and every one of us, whether we know it or not. And therein lies the rub, my friends. Far, far too often, we do not know it. We are interconnected. That is the fact of our existence. The problem is we don't feel interconnected to each other often enough. As I said, there are those who literally profit in both money and power by our being separate and at each other's throats. They know connection is power, and therefore separation is weakness. Spiritually speaking, this really isn't all that different than the period leading up to the American Civil War. There, too, people were divided, and it seemed the divisions were insurmountable. And on the eve of war, the newly minted President Lincoln went into some detail in his first inaugural address, describing to the nation what needed to be done. He laid out a vision for the country, and at times he even addressed those who were dissenting and about to break away from the nation. Lincoln was probably the most eloquent poet of American democracy outside of the Founding Fathers. I find in these dark times that the words he chose to end that speech provide a kind of comfort to me today. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. Once again, passion may strain, but it must not break the sacred bonds of affection for people who disagree with us, yet share the common fortune and destiny of our country. Lincoln is basically saying we are interconnected. We share a common history as children of the American Revolution, but far too often we don't feel like siblings. We may be connected, but it doesn't feel like we're connected. Now, the man I always turn to for wisdom regarding interconnection and its religious significance is Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh, if you're unfamiliar with him, is a popular and prolific Zen Buddhist author, monk, and peace activist. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by none other than Martin Luther King himself for Thich Nhat Hanh's work on trying to end the war in his native Vietnam. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh has written a lot about how we are interrelated to each other. And one of my favorite stories is the one we heard in our reading today. It's actually one I use in funerals quite a bit. Very appropriate to this fall time of year. He was sitting next to a tree, looking deeply at it, as he likes to say. Of course, the Buddha attained enlightenment under a tree, so he may have been kind of mimicking this practice, I don't know. Anyway, he notices that the leaf falls off the tree onto the ground, into the dirt. But what is dirt, if not the remnants of leaves and other compost? It makes the soil richer so that the tree may continue to live. And thus, the leaf doesn't die so much as it is transformed and goes back into the life of the tree in some new way. This is what Buddhists mean by reincarnation. We get recycled, upcycled, perhaps, when we die. And I don't just mean our bodies, but our minds and emotions do as well. Every time we have known and expressed love and joy, we have transferred a little bit of that to the people around us. And similarly, if we have known and expressed hatred and fear, we have made the world a bit darker as a result. Therefore, even in our private lives, our thoughts and emotions cannot be separated from the world around us. The real question isn't whether to engage the world, but rather how. We're thrown into this world of fragmentation and isolation, what Buddhists would call a world of duality, when everyone is craving connection with someone else, but not everyone is able to achieve that goal. Ironically, The means in which we attempt to connect with each other through technology and social media can also backfire. They're great for broad relationships, but not deep ones. And I can also assure you that just dropping out of the conversation doesn't work either. For, as we have seen with Zoom and so forth, we're still connected even when we are far away. So the question isn't whether or not we are connected, it's how we are connected. To the extent that we have any control over it, I think it's best to physically be in one's presence. But we can't always be. Most of my family lives in Michigan or Ohio. One of my best friends is in New Jersey, another in Virginia, still another in Maine, and another in Washington State. But I feel like I am really connected with those friends when we are talking and laughing on Zoom, when we are around a dinner table at General Assembly. It feels so much better, though, when we are in it together in person. I think the other way we connect with others is to be kind. Kindness is not some milquetoast. It is spiritual discipline, as ardent and as difficult to follow as anything else. Just go check out a message board or Reddit thread sometime. Kindness is in short supply. Bringing some to the table is a great gift, for kindness strengthens relationships. It reinforces good feelings towards each other. We need to go out of our way to show kindness, not only to strangers, but especially to the people we love and who are closest to us. The irony is often it is our close friends and family members that we take for granted and fail to show them kindness. Begin your practice of kindness there. Watch how much better those connections feel for them and for you. Now, many have commented to me over the years how much they like that I end my sermons by telling you all I love you. I hope the regularity and the predictability of my saying that does not diminish its sincerity. In many ways, it is a kindness practice for me. And I fear that there may be people in the pews or on live stream who have no one to say I love you to them regularly. Everyone should hear those words at some point. Church should be the place where we say I love you to each other all of the time. And if you're one of those people who needs to hear it, well, just give me a call. I got a brand new cell phone that works almost all the time. May we show and feel our bonds of affection to each other as often and as deeply as possible. I love you. Go in peace. Amen.
Each week, we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in a spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before, those who in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will also be shared with PrideWorks. Please refer to our e-newsletter or website for more information. You can make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. You can also scan the QR code in your order of service. From your homes, you can make a donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter. Please remember to give a little extra to compensate for the 3% surcharge. Or, if you prefer, you can always mail us a check. The offering will now be given, is being given, and gratefully received. Please join me in the dedication of the offering. The words are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are also found in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May our lives be blessed according to the depth of our love, the persistence of our faith, our willingness to forgive and be compassionate, and in proportion to our yearning to be free. Amen.